Okay, hopefully I did that right. Let's see real quick. Sonny, are you hosting this? I'm just going to record this to my computer. Who's the host? Anna, maybe? I just sent a request.
James was the host. Oh, it's letting me approve it. I can approve it.
Great.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we are live on Facebook and LinkedIn. For whatever reason, my YouTube wouldn't come up. But can everyone hear me okay? Quick little nod. Perfect. So appreciate you all being here today. This is the mobile mailbox money mastermind. Tremendous amount of deal flow we have currently at our fingertips in first lien and second lien investments, providing passive rates of return for investors, whether accredited or non. You could buy a note and start performing in as little as a 30-day program. I think it's a lot of the times it's hard to find assets that fit specific benchmarks as a deal flow opportunity. So that being said, that's what we do. We have like 20 to 50 positions available at any given time. See a couple people trickling in. We appreciate you being here this week. We did delay it about an hour for daylight savings. So I think we may end up making the decision today to go ahead and move to 1 o'clock Pacific time to, at y'all's availability. So, we're happy to be nimble in that accord. That today's brought to you by Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. That's our 506C accredited investment fund. We're currently raising $50,000 minimum investment up to $1 million at a time. Start performing in as little as a 30-day program. Those returns are a 10% return for 1 year paid monthly, 12% for a 3-year term paid quarterly, or 14% newly originated for a 5-year lockup paid monthly. I think a lot of people love that high yield, getting the security of a private lending and secured position backed by the fund. So all of our investments in the fund are per unit owner share in our portfolio, and you become a passive investor and per unit owner within that debt that we perform out in the market outside complications of landlord and tenant, speculative appreciation, common problems with operating a long-term investment strategy, all the above. Stepping into the bank's position. So that's Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. Quick little house cleaning. We just had Arizona Real Estate Investors Association on Monday. I think we got back within an hour of flying in from my sister's wedding. Happened to show up at the meeting with our booth and the lights and all the action. So picked up a couple new contacts there. So happy to give Azria their shout out if you're local. Azria, the Phoenix Real Estate Meetup, meets at Venue 8600, second Monday of the month, every month. So we're there pretty much every month, taking interviews. You can check those out on our YouTube at Mobile Mailbox Money. I happened to look the other day, and we have like 850 videos on YouTube, kind of epic. But what do we do here? We provide our investors a back office view of our operations, our deal flow, have live due diligence, bouncing back and forth to ultimately be transparent within these transactions. What are the kind of transactions that we're going to be talking about here today? So with Win Mobile Homes, the largest dealer of manufactured housing, we sell or finance mobile homes at a double-digit interest rate, sell or finance to a borrower at 14 and 15%. And you could potentially buy those notes on manufactured housing in the Arizona market, first lien, only lien on the property, yielding our investors a double-digit interest-bearing annualized residual income. Additionally, with our success in seller finance, scaling to now second liens, where we get a 65% loan to value or less with the new debt. The CLTV, combined loan to value, 65% or less, right? So sufficient equity cushion for us to feel comfortable. to hedge in that position. In case of non-performance, we walk into additional equity, right? It's important that it's risk mitigated. It's a conventional real estate investment vehicle on single family and investor friendly states where we originate a loan, maybe reinstate someone's mortgage, maybe they needed some credit card debt refinanced, or whatever it may be. They need to borrow against their equity, specifically in their property. Our availability to do so without having them hit benchmarks of ability to repay is called an open-ended home equity line of credit. So the open-ended nature of that transaction and the loan to value in consideration makes it strictly an asset-based loan. So we lend on the equity in the property. They should have access to the equity in their property, right? But if they're in foreclosure or they've got credit cards hidden, they go to the bank and try to get a HELOC, the bank's going to tell them to hit the door, at the end of the day. So that's where we come in, right? We lend them money, provide our investor a passive return, whether in the fund guaranteed by that position or hypothecated, which means to pledge an asset in order to garnish capital investment. So our positions are anywhere from $20,000 to $120,000, 130 across our various diversified opportunities that we bring to you today. So whether you're looking for first lien performing notes, right? What we originate in the Arizona market at a double-digit yield, you could buy that whole note. We could pledge that note. You could invest in the fund in that ecosystem, or the second liens now on single family residents. And right now we are doing our first one in Arizona. We're talking about opening the Texas market, some complications there because of the cap of the origination fee, so we're vetting all of those. But where usury facilitates our rate of return, we're originating these positions at an 18% interest rate and looking for lenders at less than what we lend at. Those other markets are like the Carolinas. We've been talking about Florida for a long time. And Jason happens to be here today, one of our partners here with PLOC Loans, private home equity lines of credit loans.com, plocloans.com. That'll launch soon, where we'll launch more marketing. But I got Jason here today. Let's just open it up here. I think people like seeing the deals. People like having, potential availability of questions. We got a couple investors here today. So Jason, appreciate you having you here today.
Absolutely. I'm obviously in the car, so I'm not able to share my screen and share deals, but I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has. For the most part, I know most people always ask the same question. What protects them in a situation where the first is already in foreclosure? These loans are all very high equity homeowners. Basically, they are folks that most of the time, not always, but most of the time, they bought their house 15 or 20 years ago. They might have refinanced in 2022. A majority of these folks have interest rates under 4%, and a lot of times they have $100,000 or $150,000, $200,000 in equity. So they are obviously in a position where they do not want to lose their home. They do not want to sell their home. We are investors, and we've been investors for 30 years. And so we're reaching these folks trying to buy the property because it has a lot of equity. But by offering them, a bailout loan or a lifeline to borrow enough money to get current, these folks appreciate the conversation that 99 other people who've tried to buy their house aren't having with them. So from a foreclosure standpoint, they got into some trouble, and it could be, there's a myriad of reasons. They got sick, they got hurt, they lost their, right now we're in the middle of a government shutdown. We haven't seen the foreclosure results from that since it's so new, but things happen. But they've got a ton of equity, and they don't want to lose that equity. So the conversations we're having with these folks is, hey, we'll lend you the money to get current and give you time to refinance out of it, or to, in some cases, maybe they want to sell it. They just don't want to lose their equity. They've outgrown the house, or the house has outgrown them, and they obviously don't want to lose their equity. So plan A is always give them a chance to get current and keep their equity. Plan B, they understand that, listen, the only way that you're going to lose all your equity is if somebody forecloses on you. So if we lend you money and you don't make a payment, you're in the exact same situation. And as long as you contact us and have an open discussion about what's going on, we will work with you to help you get that thing sold so that you don't lose all your equity. So not only are, we're putting our investors in situations where the loan to value is really, really good, but we're helping folks that need help. And they understand that if they cannot refinance or if they cannot afford the payment, that they need to work with us to help them get this thing sold so they get to keep the majority of the equity. So we love the ability to help folks along the way of trying to meet our minimum returns.
So there's two small pieces there that people may not understand. You're, as the passive investor, or a private lender with a collateralized lending opportunity with qualified operators. Who's the qualified operators? It's us. It's TWI, Win Mobile Homes, and Silvercrest Opportunity Fund. You're lending right against that asset. If it does need to go to foreclosure, what do as the qualified operator? We pay off the first, pay off the second, which is the investor's position, and maybe provide you another opportunity right within the same kind of program. We may have others at that time as far as, different diversification capabilities. We'll always have these seconds, but just to understand quickly, you guys are passive. So we take that on. We walk into additional equity, right, and earn additional return on investment while arbitraging the interest rate to our passive investor when we originated the loan. So that one factor, I think, has people, kind of confused a little bit just from the people that I've talked to. You get paid off at that point. If it does go south, which, some are going to go, if we do enough of them, it's bound to happen at the end of the day. And really, we didn't approach this just as a lending opportunity. We were trying to buy the house. We're trying to buy the house originally. And that's why we have it on the table. We got intuitive enough to, instead of sending a deal out the door, we offer them this different program, this different product out in the market that we're developing, as you see here today. So, just to kind of understand that, I think we're doing our first deal this week. It'll close, I think, in a day or two. It's like $100,000 transaction. Here in the Arizona market, hot market here in Arizona. I'm not biased by any means. I love Arizona to death. But, just to kind of talk about on a $100,000 transaction, let me grab out my calculator here real quick. Give me one moment. So on $100,000, he committed to, I think it was a 3-year term, and we happened to give him a little juice for a 3-year. We're normally asking like 5 for a return like this. It just shows we're nimble, right, at the end of the day. But on $100,000 times the return divided by 12 is a monthly payment of $1,166 interest only. So, savvy investors should know how to work that calculator. It's not a principal and interest payment. Important to understand, right? This is an interest only note to the borrower, as well as pledged interest only to the investor. That's $1,166 a month for a 3-year term, interest only. Over 3 years, what is that? That's $42,000 he made passive over 3 years. I mean, those numbers really start to blossom. And if you arbitrage that, you take that interest at the end of the 3 years, take your cheddar that you earned interest, and redeploy that into another performing note, $40,000. We have stuff from 20 to 80 to 130. Man, that really starts to become life-changing at the end of the day. And that home is off Birchwood. It's a nice single-family property. The loan to value hits our benchmarks. It's in a fantastic market. And we have all the bells and whistles available to make that happen. So it's going down. It's going down on Friday. That's our second lien opportunities that we'll have available. So we have others. Normally we kind of bring on a few, but this whole daylight savings got everyone thrown in a loop. So we'll just ebb and flow. So today also I have, here, I'm going to send a request to share my screen and just kind of give y'all an update on a couple of other items. that we're developing currently. Let's see if I can do this right. Okay, I'm sharing my screen here. Perfect. So can you guys see my Facebook here? Sunny, anyone? Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. So this happens to be a banger. I'm so excited about this package that we picked up. It's the most amount of homes that we picked up in a single transaction. The operator, the owner of the mobile home park here in the Arizona market in Maryvale, that West Valley market, bought, I think it was like 15 to 20 brand new 2023 manufactured homes about a year and a half ago, sat on them for a year. They sold one or two, with their lack of sales staff. They sold them at 45 and like 49.9, and they had 11 others, 11, 12 others. So we came in as a preferred operator, licensed, bonded, insured, manufactured home dealer, and bought these homes. They were listed at 49.9. What do you think we bought them at? Anyone have a guess? We bought them less than half off. I'm going to beat you to the punch. We bought them at 23.5 confidentially, fully transparent, got a 6-month rental concession that'll actually translate to additional income when we get it sold or rented, right? The objective is to exit seller finance at the original price point or higher, right? But if they get in earlier and we still have the rental concession, we pick up that $950 a month. So at $950 a month, our arbitrage monthly to hit a ability to repay for a end user to buy one of these homes at say $50,000 is around $1,500 a month. So that's like, say $500. So each door should procure $500 a month. These notes are currently available at $40,000, where you'll get a first right of refusal of the note that will inadvertently come available at our regular seller finance rate, right? Double-digit interest rate. You could acquire these notes for a 20-year term is normally what we finance at, or I could pledge this note for a 1-year term at still a double-digit interest rate, but now you have almost like a built-in servicing of the individuals that bought and sold these homes. These homes needed zero rehab. Excuse me. They were brand new, never titled, right? They're not even going to, I think, go in our name. We're going to title it at sale. So we're looking for lenders currently on, say, 10 of these homes at $40,000 a piece, right? So that's $400,000. At $40,000 for one door, for a 1 year, say, call it a construction loan, that's $333 a month, $333 and 33 cents. Lucky threes here today. So we're going to call this the threes deal special construction loan to first right of refusal, just to kind of talk about that lightly, about what that means. You get the collateralized lending of an operator. We pledge the first lien, only lien on title of these properties. We drafted at a 1-year term just out of convenience, so we may not have to tap you. The objective is obviously to exit these, within the next 30 to 60 days. We're in high season right now for properties just like this. These happen to be in 55 and older communities. These in one community, it's called Long Haven Estates, as you see here. So $40,000, we got 10 available. You'll get the first right of refusal of the note that will inadvertently come available. What does that look like? What will a note on a property look like this? Say we sell full price, $49,999. That's $50,000 just under, and we can close that in-house with our brokerage, not having to use a title office. That saves all kinds of fees at closing. We look for a 10% down payment, $5,000. Right? That $5K is sufficient skin in the game for them to feel vested, like they own the house. They put $5,000 down, right? So $5K down, Property value and purchase price was $49,900. The UPB, or unpaid balance, of a potential seller finance note is $44,999, right? So $44,999. That monthly payment is $559.57. You bought a note for less than $45,000 and you're cash flowing $500 a month or more with first lien position for a 20-year term. If you go to a mortgage calculator and type in the summary, your original $44,999 investment, acquisition in other terms, of this note, total interest earned over the lifetime of this loan is $89,298. You doubled your money, right? You doubled your money owning this note passive with no complications of appreciation, trying to figure out what that looks like over the next 5 years. Depending on who you ask, they say there's not going to be any significant appreciation over the next 5 years. That's really important to account, in your investment strategy. Where can you find a high yield cash flow that's secured, collateralized? These borrowers go through stringent criteria in order to facilitate ability to repay for the loan. So, I think our paper is pretty superior to a lot of the stuff that comes out in the market. That's Long Haven Estates, 11 doors. We're looking for $400,000 pledged by 10 notes. You get your first right of refusal and start cash flowing in as little as a 30-day program. These deals are live right now. And I know a few of you had kind of committed soft over the past 30 to 40 days, trying to ready your capital. So, let's get some action here today. You got to take a step forward at the end of the day to get out of your habitual education, call it, to be vested with a qualified operator. We'll show you the ropes. Not a lot of people will do that, and that's why we're here today. So those are a few that I'm really excited about. We've also had a contract, I think, come in this morning on a 4-bed, 2-bath in the Tempe market seen here today. The address is 400 West Baseline Road, Tempe. So feel free to try and run your comps. We've done close to $2 million in transactions in this one park off major cross streets of Kyrene and Baseline. Serena's not on here. I was going to try and clarify. Let me just see on my list real quick what these actual numbers look like, because this note possibly may come available. And it's obviously contingent on park approval and underwriting. But just to talk about it here today, this 4-2 is listed at 122.5. She doesn't have any notes in here, but I'm banking on that it's going to be a $10,000 down payment, right? So property value on a mortgage calculator, Carl's mortgage calculator, you can download for free. If you don't have one, do that. So 122.5, 10,000 down is the down payment for this 4-2, right? 10K down, 20-year term. That monthly payment on the home itself, the mortgage, the seller finance note on this 4-2 that's been completely remodeled down to the studs, new roof, new cabinets, granite, double wide 4-2, hard to find, $1,398.96 a month, $1,398.96 a month. Their total monthly payment, including lot rent, insurance, taxes, monthly service fee, is just under $2,500. To find a finish like this in the Tempe market, tile showers, tile backsplash, new vanities, literally not one thing is not brand new. We almost remanufactured this home. In the Tempe market, this home is well over $2,500 a month, say in a single family comparison with similar square footage. And an apartment, it's definitely going to be a little bit more. If you go to apartments.com, which I've done live before, I recommend you look around at a couple different options. I just happen to bring that one up frequently. But, that hits all the benchmarks necessary for us to feel comfortable that if this borrower walks away, they have little to no alternatives for housing for a similar property, right? 4-2. The idea is they probably have multiple kids and stuff like that. they're in there like swimwear. You know, here's a cool little video.
So this is Sean Gibson with
about the
Homes.
corner
So today
lot.
I'm so excited. We're here in back inside. So we also provide seller financing. So
Not
as you
sure
kind
if
of
you can hear that, but you
the
know,
remodeled
just kind of gives you a little
bathrooms,
view.
the washer and dryer, the tile. This thing it's a turnkey property ready. We can move you in here within 30 days of the application. So as you kind of pan around here, you're gonna go in.
Got that nice double wide square footage. So, you know, again, for 110, what principal balance, unpaid balance is 112.5 for 20 years, paying $13.98 a month. You know, and we can pledge that note for a 1-year term. What does that look like? You know, say someone were wanting this collateralized lending opportunity, but they don't want the 20-year term. Completely understandable. You know what we do in that position? It's called hypothecation. We hypothecate this note or sell it at MailBoxMoney.com. You can actually go there now and sign up to receive some more information. We have our notes for sale here, Arizona notes, right? So for a 1-year term of an investment of $112,500, let me grab out my other calculator. Bear with me here. $1,125 is $937 a month, right? For 1-year term, we'll give you liquidity if you like. We can auto rollover that transaction if you like. You know, super nimble. We can enter you into the fund at that point. You're like, man, these guys are bang up. They do the do at the end of the day. So you know that's what that looks like. So that's like we talked about 14 doors. 14 active lending opportunities that we'll be trying to consummate over the next 10 days, you know. So these, if you have capital in an IRA, solo 401k, or you find yourself accredited, you know, all areas of opportunity to either invest in the fund, our 506c Reg D fund, where we absorb these positions into our portfolio and you become a per unit owner share, or you want to just touch it, feel it, smell it, check out the return on investment with one note, one door with one investor, non-securitized of the asset, and you get your physical lien position. You know, those are all immediately available. I just got funded in Silvercrest about $1.6 million, and we've put all of that to work. I've got about my cushion left to feel comfortable of risk mitigated within our portfolio. But that's like $1.5 million in the past 40 days that we've put to work. One of my investors invested another $500,000 and then is doing the note here on Friday. So that's like 2.2 million that we've deployed successfully and haven't missed a payment. So you know, the proof is in the pudding. Those are just a couple of the various opportunities that we have. I encourage you, if you haven't, sign up on our mailer at mobilemailboxmoney.com. I'm going to open it up. See if anybody has any questions here this morning. We're happy for each of you to be here. We encourage you to ask questions. If you're, you know, there's no stupid questions at the end of the day. You may be new. You may have been around for a while. We're going to open it up. Boom.
Okay, I have a question.
Let's hear it.
Jason, on these seconds, because the investors that I talked to asked me this, what does it look like when or if the borrower defaults? What does the recovery time look like, and what does that process look like for the investor?
Well, that's what I was kind of describing earlier. In most cases, when the borrower cannot afford to make payments, they're going to reach out to us because our office is the one that's been dealing with them. They're going to reach out to us and they're going to say, I can't afford to make the payment, which means plan B goes into immediate effect. How fast can we get it listed? What does it need any work to get it listed? The ultimate goal is that they say, I get it. I can't make the payments. I can't afford this house. How do we sell it? And then we immediately put them into the selling strategy or plan B. That's what most do. In the case where they don't, they probably still don't want to, they understand because they were already in foreclosure. We've talked to them and told them, listen, if the auction happens, here's what your expectations need to be. You're going to get in 30 days, somebody's going to knock on your door, and it's going to be a sheriff, and they're going to tell you, listen, you got 30 minutes to move. Grab what you can, and you need to get out. I got to change locks. So they understand the worst case scenario. And again, we're only doing loans on folks that have high equity, right? We're not doing loans on somebody that's got a 95% loan to value already. So the goal is that they work with us, because then, when the property gets sold, the investor obviously gets all their money. The homeowner then keeps the majority of their equity. Everybody's happy in a situation where typically it takes 6 to 9 months, to deal with. So another thing is, it depends on what state. Every state's a little bit different in terms of actual foreclosure laws. And that's a consideration, that we take into effect as to where we're doing these.
Yeah, so in other words, we're only doing these in investor-friendly markets. We're benchmarking those to make sure that it's risk mitigated, and what we're getting into. What is the underwriting? One question I get frequently is, what does the underwriting look like for each of these opportunities? In the single-family seconds, we're closing through a licensed title or an attorney in order to validate the first, and that there's not any escalation clauses. We know what kind of fees are due and things of that nature. We're validating the amount and interest rate, because it may present a viable subject to at the end of the day if it does end up going non-performing. As well as making sure, I think we were doing a full inspection. So we had an actual full inspection done on the property here in the Arizona market, right? So that's how that one's underwritten. The single family seconds, it's strictly asset based, right? So we're validating the asset, validating its condition, validating the terms that are in place already, closing through a qualified underwriter and a mortgage broker in order to properly originate the note. And all of the fees as well as the interest are within legal reason, right? So we want to make sure we're doing this correctly at the end of the day, because that's where the real scalable opportunity comes. So that's the seconds on single family and how they're underwritten. For the manufactured housing here in the Arizona market that we've been doing 8 years, 350 doors, 2% default rate, low default rate. Why is that default rate? Well, it's because of the underwriting. So how is it underwritten, right? These individuals that come to the table to facilitate a seller finance loan go through 2 rounds of underwriting. One, through the community where the home is located. They go through background check, no past criminal, no open bankruptcies, no past evictions, verifiable income, and then on top of that, they go through a second round of underwriting. Why is that? Well, because they're getting a loan. So not only were they underwritten by the park, by the time they really get to secondary underwriting, 9 times out of 10, they're going to hit the benchmarks. And those benchmarks are similar to FHA requirements of debt to income ratios, as well as, background checks additionally to verify the information that we've received. And that's how the cookie crumbles at the end of the day. They've got down payment. They're an upstanding citizen. Their debt to income ratio facilitates their ability to repay. And our licensed mortgage officer that's actually on staff processes the loan. So it went through 2 rounds of underwriting. A mortgage officer signed off on the loan. The loan was closed either through a title company or through our licensed brokerage, facilitating the origination of the lien position on title. And not only that, the home we owned. We knew the quality of the home. We knew the borrower. We bought it, rehabbed it, sold it, put a fishing lure out in the market to find a qualified borrower, and at that point sold the home and got them fully underwritten. So that's kind of the 2 within those diversification capabilities. On manufactured housing, it's not a foreclosure, right? Because it's personal property. They go through a formal repossession. So within 10 days of non-payment, they get a notice of non-payment. 10 days after that, they get a pay or quit. And I think it's like 10 to 20 days after that, we get a writ of restitution and ultimately get a lockout. Like Jason was saying, the sheriff literally comes to the house to lock them out of the property. You know, we're not in the business of taking people's houses back by any means whatsoever, but there's recourse, right? This is an investment. There's a feel-good strategy behind it because we're keeping people in their homes as well as creating solutions for one of the biggest needs in the nation, which is affordable housing. But there's recourse, right? You know, 40 days of non-payment on that transaction, we get it retitled. Put it back up for sale. You know, it could cost $750 for the eviction, maybe $1,000 to $2,000 for the back fees at the park. You know, that's like $2,500 to $5,000. You'll have a commission due to the agent that could be, you know, $4,000. So say you're $7,000 all in, resold at that point, hopefully so. And at that point, the idea is either that you've either recaptured additional return on investment because the demand for affordable housing is so high, or the down payment was sufficient to really cover those fees, and we end up rolling again back into another seller finance note. And the same thing kind of applies for the seconds. We'll roll you at your leisure, possibly into another deal and keep you earning. We're looking for lifelong investment relationships. You know, people do business with the individuals they know, like, and trust, and to be able to establish that here today, you know, with the 6 different investors that have trickled in and out of our mastermind here today, you know, it is truly life-changing. It's a blessing. You know, we take this very seriously with all the stuff that we bring to the table. It's all fully compliant. You know, I think we're one of the largest operators in creative finance in the nation. You know, we're gaining traction online. If you haven't had the chance, go back and view the previous vlogs, the masterminds, the note education, the interviews with industry experts like Pace Morby, Kevin Shortell, Eddie Speed, Mark Monroe, Patrick Friends, you know, Dan Deppen, Call the Underwriter, who we're actually doing business with now at the end of the day. So we're elevating to a new plateau, and we're happy to bring you guys along. We'll always have opportunity, and that's why we bring these masterminds to the table every week, now at 1 o'clock Pacific time. So I think we're going to make that change here today live. So, you know, it's 1:45 here currently. Please, if you have capital, don't hesitate to reach out. You got to take a step forward, and having the transparency that we bring here today hopefully provides you the confidence to start performing and get one step closer to financial freedom. What do we call that? We call that mobile mailbox money. We appreciate having each of you here today. If there's no more questions or insight needed, please don't hesitate to reach out. Sonny is actually immediately available, as well as Sean Gibson. They're both on the call today. We have some of our VAs that trickle in and out that help us with correspondence. So, you know, communication is of utmost importance. So, like I said, don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll see you all at 1 o'clock Pacific time next week. Bam.
Recording stopped.
If you guys have any additional questions, Sonny will probably stay on a little bit, so feel free to pipe on in.